Welcome, Oak and Vine investors. I'm privileged to be joined by Joel Landon from EQRP. Joel, would love for you just to kind of introduce yourself. Got a bunch of questions and
Yeah,
can't wait to jump into self-directed.
yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to it, and thanks for having me. Yeah, like Nick mentioned, my name is Joel Landon. I work for EQRP, and we specialize in providing self-directed retirement services to people who like to invest in alternative assets. And I've been with the company for about 3 years. I come from a banking background, but got connected to EQRP through those banking relationships. And ultimately, I get connected with communities just like Oak and Vines and share with them how to self-direct their retirement. So this is great content for people who are either familiar with it or it could be brand new to some of you. So just looking forward to getting down to the details with Nick.
Awesome. Yeah, and my experience, many of my investors know this, but the way I got into commercial real estate syndications was through using a self-directed. My mom had me start a Roth IRA when I was 16 years old, and over the years have slowly grown that balance and was really wanting to get into real estate. I have a ministry background, so I didn't have a ton of extra cash just sitting around to be able to invest, and picked up a couple investment properties, but wanted to buy back my time and really get into an opportunity where I could really invest passively. And that's where I discovered self-directed accounts where you can move money from a Roth, you can move money from a former employer's 401k or 403, and use that vehicle as a way to invest in alternative assets, whether it's real estate, precious metals, businesses, private lending, horses, all kinds of great ways to do it. But I came across EQRP really just through interacting with some of the EQRPS staff on social media. Kind of got to hear their story, and I was able to be introduced to Joel and really hear his heart behind why he wants to serve people. And now EQRP is my go-to source for investors that want to invest through a self-directed vehicle. So I guess, Joel, some of my investors have this is might be the first time they've ever heard of a self-directed account. Can you demystify it a little bit for my investors? How do you create a self-directed account? And is this a legal thing to do?
Yeah, for sure. So the idea of self-directing your retirement is basically just disconnecting your retirement from the traditional system. Those of you listening right now are probably really familiar with a 401k that you are currently or might have participated in the past with an employer that you worked for. That's a traditional 401k. And the idea behind what we offer and what we're talking about today is disconnecting from that traditional system because it's so limited. The opportunity for you as a 401k participant in that plan is extremely limited. I'm sure you've signed into your 401k platform before with your employer, and you've recognized that the only options that are available to you as a participant are mutual funds, maybe some selected or pre-selected by the administrator or even your employer. There might be some index funds or target date funds, but it stops there. It really just is limited to one asset class that we would call Wall Street. Um, However, when you take control of your retirement, the idea is that you self-direct it. You pull it from that really limited structure, and you now have complete control and opportunity to invest it in all of the other alternative assets that are available. That's your real estate, whether it's commercial multifamily, self-storage, single-family properties, all the way to private money lending. Nick mentioned holding positions in some unique assets like gold and silver. So again, the idea to bring it back all together is you're essentially disconnecting from the traditional limited system and you're putting it into an investment vehicle that you have full control of. And it is legal. It's actually a retirement plan that was designed decades ago. And it was really designed for the small business owner. Congress and legislation was essentially developed to support the small business owner. And so what we've done is ultimately we've taken that tool and that resource and we've put it in front of as many people as possible. And we're showing them and teaching them how they could actually use this investment vehicle for themselves. And so We have about 2,000 clients in our membership, and they've essentially come across this resource, whether it was word of mouth or maybe they found us online, and we taught them this process. We showed them essentially how they can do this, how they can be eligible, how it works, how it functions, and yes, that it is definitely legal. So great question, Nick, to kick it off. And I would say it's a very common question for sure.
Well, that's awesome. Maybe just to kind of just get through a couple of these questions, can you move any type of an account to a self-directed, or what types of accounts are eligible? Maybe distinguish between if you're currently working at an employer and you have a 401k versus maybe a previous employer's 401k. Which accounts could you move over into an EQRP account?
That's a great question. So we'll just kind of break it down with what kinds of funds can move into an EQRP plan that allows you to self-direct. Um, Starting from the top, if you ever participated in a company-sponsored plan like a 401k, those are eligible funds. And I'll talk a little bit more in detail about this, but I'll just go down the list and start with yes, a 401k for sure. Some of you are physicians, or maybe you are a firefighter, or maybe you worked for a police department at one point, so you might have a 403b or a 457. Those can obviously move into an EQRP plan. Let's say maybe you worked for a government agency or even the military. You're likely participating in a TSP plan, thrift savings plan. Those could also move over. And then, of course, you could break it down and get into, let's say, an IRA. Let's say you have a traditional IRA and you're hoping that you could self-direct that. Those funds are also qualified. So that's kind of going down the list of eligible, common company-sponsored plans that you could roll into an EQRP. But let's answer the second part of your question, which is who's really eligible and what funds are eligible to move into the EQRP. If you can raise your hand and say, yes, I have a 401k or I have a 457, it would be eligible for you to move into an EQRP plan if it comes from a previous employer. So if you worked for one company and you participated in their 401k and then you left that company and moved to another, the funds in that 401k from that previous employer are eligible to move to a 401k. Maybe you've even moved those funds from that old employer to your current employer's plan. That's actually pretty common. People want to move it because they want it going into their current company 401k to continue contributing. Those previous funds that you rolled over, they're also eligible. Um, in some rare instances, you could be eligible while you're still employed. So I think the biggest rule of thumb is if you're just asking yourself, am I eligible for an EQRP? You would have to tell yourself, A, yes, I've left that employer or I no longer work for them. Or B, you might fall into a really, really small bucket of eligible employees that can actually move funds while they're still employed. It's very rare. It's like 1 out of 10 can do it. And you just have to go to your HR department and say, hey, I'm still employed with you guys, but I'm considering moving my retirement funds to a different plan. Is this something that I could do currently? And they'll give you the yes or the no. So we do have some clients that are eligible while they're still employed. But in most cases, if you've left a job, if you've retired and those funds are still chilling there, you could absolutely move those over into an EQRP plan.
Okay, that's really helpful. And it's good to know too that each individual employer might have a different type of plan. So to hear 1 in 10, there might be some people watching this that one simple call to their HR or stopping by your HR person's office just to ask that question,
Oh
you could
yeah,
make it eligible. And I think you're right. When you take things into your own hands, it just opens up the doorway for alternative investment opportunities. Um, how did you kind of get started with EQRP, and how long have you been with the company?
for sure. So I was working in the banking industry, and I worked for a small community bank that was based out of Denver, Colorado, when I got connected with the founder of EQRP. So the founder is Damian Lupo, and he's been a real estate professional for many years. He has a lot of experience. He's had successes and failures, and I got to know him first as a client. He was one of our bank clients, so I had a lot of interactions with him. And While I was working at the bank and interacting with Damien, I got a real sense that he was very serious about his clients. So I spoke a little bit about how EQRP has 2,000 clients. He's very, very serious about providing his clients what they need. And there were a lot of demands on the bank side where I get a phone call from Damien, hey, Joel, I need this to happen now for my clients. And there were a lot of times where it was like, in my heart, I wanted to say, I can't do that. That's like, building the Great Wall of China overnight. I just can't do that. But he put a lot of pressure on me to make things happen for his clients. That actually stood out to me a lot. So after a couple of years working for that bank, I'll never forget when I texted Damien Loop and I said, hey, I would like to work for EQRP. Is there an opportunity? He called me, I would say probably within an hour. 45 minutes later, I was offered a job. And it was kind of like a trial period, of course. It was like, Joel, come on over. You have a unique perspective in your industry. Let's see what you could do. Fortunately, it played out very well, and I've been with EQRP now next month in September for 3 years.
Okay, that's wonderful. It seems to me like a self-directed account feels like this secret society of once you attain a certain level of status or you're a high net worth individual, then you can have access to this. What's kind of the minimum requirement for someone to start an EQRP?
That's actually a great question, Nick. So I thought that as well. I thought that this was specific to a certain maybe financial class of individuals. We actually have clients that are, by SEC standards, non-accredited, but they are looking forward to, reaching those levels. I think we're all looking to reach a specific level in life. Um, and so we do cater to a lot of members who are just kind of starting at a younger age and building up. Maybe they're even a little bit older and they're just trying to maximize what they have. So I'll put it to you this way, Nick. We have some clients that have rolled over, let's just say $50,000 in a retirement plan. And so when we connect with them and we hear that, we also ask a lot of questions about, well, what is your investment strategy? What is it exactly that you want to do? If we were just in the business of giving somebody a qualified plan that they can self-direct the $50,000 and then give them a pat on the back and say good luck, that would be horrible for them because they wouldn't know what to do with it. So we do put a lot of emphasis on nurturing that client and helping them reach a lot of their goals, even if it's just $50,000. We also have clients that are small business owners that have nothing to roll over. They don't have existing funds because they've worked so hard to build their business. They may have just gotten to a point where they can start making contributions as a small business owner. So they're looking for what all the 401k participants and 457 participant people are enjoying. It's like they're raising their hand saying, I need this. Like, I need to get ahead just like all of these other individuals in the W-2 space. So we provide them with the self-directed 401k so that a business owner, they can make elective deferral contributions, just like me working for the bank. I could contribute up to $23,000 yearly of my paycheck for 2024. Well, for a small business owner, they could do that, but they could also make a profit sharing contribution as a small business. So they can look at the net income for their company. They can make those employee contributions up to 23,000, and if it makes sense financially for them, they can contribute an additional $46,000 in profit sharing contributions, which ends up being just a great tax deduction for the business. But also, it's just more money going into the pocket of the participant, which is the small business owner, that they can then use to invest in more alternative assets. So there's a variety of clientele that we have. We have the client who rolls over $300,000 and places, $200,000 into a real estate project, and maybe the other 100,000 into a venture capital technology fund. So, the spectrum is pretty wide actually. And so hopefully these examples have given those listening today some idea of like, okay, this is something that actually fits me more than they thought.
So what I hear you saying is individuals, married couples, small business owners, companies. There's a place for the self-directed, whether it's an EQRP or a 401k. or even a Roth IRA, you guys have all of those options available. And I was kind of tallying up the numbers. If you add the 23,000 plus the 46,000, you're talking about almost $70,000 for a small business owner to be building their future retirement, building their future ability, in my case, to be really generous with some of these um, pots of money that you're trying to be a good steward of. So that's really cool. I feel like even I'm learning a little bit each time I interact with you and your team. You know, you guys have a pretty cool community. I think it's called the Badger Tribe. Could you speak a little bit about that? In particular, the learning
Yeah.
component, and then also when you join EQRP, you're not just on your own island, but you actually have opportunities within EQRP for people to place funds. Tell us a little bit about that as well.
Yes. When I came to EQRP 3 years ago, we didn't have the virtual community that we have today. And the reason I bring that up is because ultimately our members were asking for it. They were looking for this community to connect with. They were looking for fellow EQRP, but also just fellow self-directed retirement investors to connect with, learn from, invest with. So that's what we did. Damian Lupo, he put together a really nice platform using the Circle social media space, and so it is customized and designed to our flavor. However, it does give the member that walks into this kind of industry or this space of self-directing their retirement an opportunity to connect with others who are either currently doing it for the first time or they've done it for a while. I've seen a lot of our members connect with others, learn from others, invest with others. And it's always like a huge high five in the office when we start to see those interactions take place, because ultimately that's what our members asked for initially. And then we really wanted to deliver on that. I'll tell you right now, we're still kind of refining it. We launched it last year, and it takes a lot to navigate and just make that what it ultimately needs to be. So it's still a work in progress, but I think what anybody can enjoy is the fact that it's really, really good as is, and it's just continuing to get better and better. So people can actually, uncover opportunities, connect with, syndicators like yourself, and so on and so forth. So great place to connect. We have Damien that does a monthly mastermind that people can watch on that platform as well. So it's just, we're really proud of community.
It's awesome. Yeah, I've been really impressed with the caliber of the content, the teaching, and just opportunities too. I think there's
Cool.
multiple asset classes, multiple opportunities. You know, I'm both a syndicator providing those opportunities, but also a member investing in opportunities as well. So yeah, great work, and excited to see it continue to develop. You know, the one other thing I just wanted to touch on was, I think another aspect that sets you guys apart is in an EQRP plan. Is there a minimum or a maximum, and are you charged based on how many assets are in your plan, or is it a flat fee? Could you kind of just speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, it is a flat fee. We decided early on that we did want to distinguish ourselves from some of the more institutional IRA custodians. They do charge an asset under management kind of structure, which could get, there's just variability in the pricing. So we decided, yes, we would charge an upfront price to join EQRP, initiate the entire plan structure and whatnot, and then an ongoing annual maintenance fee. Um, and do you want me to even get into the specific dollar amounts of that, Nick, or
I think we can just place those below, and we don't have to
for
necessarily
sure?
talk about that on this, but I think it's very affordable.
Yeah,
One reason that I've moved myself over to EQRP and I'm moving my investor base over is because I think it is very affordable, especially for those investors that might have a self-directed Roth, self-directed
yeah,
401k, and then a spouse who also has multiple self-directed accounts. In other providers, you know, you're adding and adding and adding and adding, but with EQRP, it's a lot more affordable. So I think there's a reason for my investor base. If you're watching and you want to participate in an oak and vine investment opportunity, I would highly commend EQRP as a self-directed provider.
that's awesome. Yeah, and one of the reasons we typically don't even display the pricing because there is some differences. It's very flat pricing, but there are some differences based on which plan you need to use. And so I'm glad you touched on that, that there is even a Roth IRA component. And so I would just encourage anybody that might be interested, hop on a strategy call for us with us, because we'll ask you some clarifying questions to get a really good perspective of where do you sit right now, and then what does the goal look like for you in the next 30 days? And then we'll show you exactly, okay, great, this is what plan you'll need to make that happen. But at least the member can expect, okay, flat pricing across the board.
Okay, great. Couple of kind of more targeted questions here. Um, so you kind of talked about how does someone get started, but who actually moves the money from the old plan to the new plan? How does that mechanically happen? So you jump on a strategy call, then what happens next?
Yeah, we gather all of the information from you, like where are your funds currently held at? And sometimes people don't know right off the bat. And so we know how to help guide them almost to find that information. Once we obtain where the current funds are residing, we hop on a call directly with that releasing party and you, the client. The releasing party is going to want to have your permission to do that, right? They're going to want to authenticate you and so forth. So that's that initial conversation with the releasing party. Then we do all of the back end work. We'll work directly with the custodian, whether it's paperwork, maybe they want a letter of acceptance and so forth, account information. We'll work with them directly to make that possible, keep you looped in, of course. But the idea is that we wouldn't want you to have to take on the heavy lifting. It can get complicated, and maybe some of the verbiage or some of the information you want to share or they want to share can get lost in translation. So the idea is for us to come in and to just almost in a way kind of run that show until those funds are fully released by the custodian. Then we move those and essentially register it in your EQRP plan, ready for you to invest.
That's awesome. So what I hear you saying is you're removing as much friction as possible for the investor. One of the
Totally.
points of friction that my investors, myself, have had coming up to this point is tax time. So walk us through what happens when you join EQRP when it comes to taxes, reporting, documentation. What does an investor have to do? What does EQRP do for the investor?
That's great. If somebody is just investing existing money, you roll over 100,000 and then you go invest it in Oak and Vine Capital's offering. You can just let that thing coast on autopilot. And then once a year, we'll document or we will complete an IRS form. It's Form 5500. It's essentially just a form that tells the IRS the value of your plan. It's totally used in the industry and very customary. But we would send that form off for you on an annual basis. No real heavy lifting there. If you decide to actually take a distribution, let's say you needed to pull money from your plan and put it in your pocket, that's a taxable event. We would make sure that the 1099 form is completed for you to show that taxable event. It's at that point that you take that, to your CPA when you go file your taxes, your personal return, because now you're just going to declare that distribution as taxable income. If you make contributions, little less paperwork on our side. You move the money, you move the funds into the account, you record it on your EQRP ledger. On the personal side, when you file your taxes, one of the line items is obviously, hey, did you make any contributions to a qualified plan? What's the amount? You document that. So it's all really straightforward. It's a lot less complicated than one would think. And we try to step in, like I said, on the 5500 form and on the 1099R so that you don't have to do it alone. Like that's the worst thing ever. And most people who self-direct, if they're not with EQRP, they are kind of navigating it on their own. And so ultimately, that's why we stand out as more turnkey. You walk in, we just walk through the whole process with you.
Yep. And as an investor who's worked with other providers, that has been kind of a tension point of what do I do here? How do I fill this out? Which information do I need? So it's
Cool.
just nice to know that EQRP helps you along every step of the way. Any last words or any last questions you'd like to address before we close up here, Joel?
I would just say two things. First, if you're somebody who's kind of sick and tired of seeing, your 401k balance shift and change, or if you've left money in an old IRA and it's just sitting there idle, have the courage to just have a face-to-face conversation with us, even if you might not think it would work out. We're willing to give up our time to uncover information, understand your situation, offer the opportunity if it presents itself. Um, and secondly, don't be discouraged. Don't be afraid to like try it out. It
Mhm.
could seem a little like, gosh, maybe this isn't for me. I'm not accredited, or gosh, I don't know if I could really manage all of this. I think it would surprise you when we paint the picture and lay out the facts that yes, this is certainly something that you can take on.
That's wonderful. And Oak and Vine has opportunities for both accredited investors and sophisticated investors. I'm pleased to kind of bring in Joel and the EQRP team to these investment opportunities, and would love for you guys to check the link below. EQRP's provided a custom link for Oak and Vine investors, and just really, really happy with the team. It's been a great change for me, and just honored that you guys would give up some time. If you guys want to jump on a call to learn more about Oak and Vine opportunities, my information will be below. And if you want to meet with one of EQRP's staff members to book that free strategy call, that link will also be below. So thanks so much, Joel. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.